Hello and welcome to the Graceful Connections Festival of Grace. I'm Sophie Bidar and I'm delighted to be your host on this journey as we celebrate and activate grace through its myriad facets and expressions. I'm so grateful that you've chosen to be here today, bringing your unique energy into our circle of connection. Your presence honors the calling within you to celebrate and activate the grace of Ascension. And that's exactly what our channel of grace today, Jin Ang, will be sharing with us. And I know his insights are going to be truly fascinating, as in the many times we've welcomed Jin as an expert speaker, he's always shown up as a brilliant Ascension guide, gifting us with transformative perspectives and powerful practices that illuminate and accelerate our path of spiritual evolution. So let's begin. Take a moment to let go of anything that doesn't serve this present moment. With each breath, feel yourself arriving more fully here. As we set our intention, may all that flows within our sacred space, be it words, vibrations, energies, serve the highest evolution of our souls and extend outward in service to all. I invite you to open your heart and your mind to receive all the brilliance that awaits. Activating your connection to the new earth crystalline grid and to the galactic center, the center of truth. You are perfectly held, both grounded and lifted. You are safe, you can relax, and you're ready and open to receive. Now I'm calling the orb of grace from the heart of the universe. And placing the orb of grace around our gathering, each and every one of us. That we be held in this orb of grace and infused with grace all along our time together. As grace permeates our field, it harmonizes and magnifies all that seeks alignment and illuminates all that longs for expression in accordance with divine will and the order of grace. And breathe. Beautiful. So within the Orb of Grace, I'm delighted to welcome Jin Ang. Jin is a facilitator of healing, especially well known for his close collaboration with the Arcturians and profound transmissions of Arcturian frequencies for healing and spiritual evolution, which we're going to be experiencing today, and that is such a treat. Today, Jin is sharing with us the grace of Ascension, inviting us to elevate our life with light, sound, and vibration. What a blessing to have you with us today, Jin. Welcome.
Hi, Sophie. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we love having you on Graceful Connections, Jin. And just to mention, we're also going to dive today into embodied practice. We'll learn a way to activate our physical, energetic, and spiritual bodies through the powerful integration of sound, sacred gesture, and conscious visualization. So that's going to be a practical part of our time together. And Jean will also offer live transmissions of Arcturian healing method frequencies. So to make a request, you will ask Jean a question on an issue or healing intention, and he'll offer a transmission for you and for the group. So to request your mini healing or intention support, press *2 on your phone or click raise hand on the webcast to come on the line with Jean, or place your request in the Q&A box on the web. For now, let's dive into our fascinating topic, embracing the grace of ascension. And I'd like to begin with asking you, Jean, why is it important to learn practices to open up our light body?
Yeah, I think as we've kind of moved along the spiritual path now, and the audiences who are coming to the Aura of Grace, and people I've been seeing, they've been on the path for quite a while. People have been able to integrate a lot of the energy healing kind of framework and meditation into their path. And I think as we move, forward, a lot of the different tools from different traditions, like I'll show some from the Buddhist and Taoist tradition, as well as sort of these new downloads that I've been a part of, other people have been a part of, like you mentioned, the connection to the Arcturians, which is sort of a fresh sort of perspective. We are accessing these kind of usually secret practices from these different groups, like 500 years ago. These practices wouldn't be as available even unless you were really within those monastic communities or maybe mystery schools directly. And now they're much more available, I think, with the advent of technology, but also the place we are on the planet. The spiritual world has what I call guardians, which maybe we can talk about. That's just my perception. And they release that esoteric knowledge and teachings in a way that looks like, if you're not tuned into that level of reality, it just looks like new programs, or teachers seem to be showing these ideas. They may be ancient or old, but usually if you really tune in, some of these ideas and techniques were really withheld from the general public in the past.
Yeah, so it's time to spread and to adopt them and to use them, right? To use them in our daily life. That's what it's all about. If I understand well, the different practices that you're going to share with us today and in the program that you're inviting everyone to join are really meant to be daily practices.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just to add to what I was saying, to kind of fully unpack that, I think because many people like ourselves who are on this call, and yourself, myself, just being, spending the time dedicated to the spiritual path, at a certain point, it's appropriate that you run into practices that, like I said, were once maybe withheld or kind of kept more within small groups or in the spirit world, and then they just seem to be more available now. But I think that's because of what I might call a ripening on the path.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that too. That it's time for us to move up and to move up and move forward with new ancient techniques and tools and technologies that, as you say, are both maybe ancient but with a modern twist to them, maybe.
Yeah, I think because like one thing to think of is that, let's say 500 years ago, maybe we were incarnated in a Tibetan monastery, and just take the normal 20-year-old, although that would be a little bit older, since the lifespan probably wasn't that long compared to now. It's one thing to consider when thinking about past incarnations. A 40-year-old might have been like a 70-year-old in terms of how much time they had on that incarnation. But that being said, if you take an 18-year-old, for example, in the modern world, an 18-year-old now has quite a lot of access to information that an 18-year-old in Tibet would not have had, even in a monastery. So we're talking about internet, capacity to work with technology, read, write, do a certain amount of arithmetic in the modern world, not maybe every place on the planet currently, which hopefully will change that. So even though their consciousness may or may not have been as developed as, let's say, a mystic or a monk who is 18-year-old or a nun in Tibet, there's a certain amount of, I guess, mental, intellectual sophistication that we have now that we may have never had like an 18-year-old at any other time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean they're spiritually developed, but they just they have a certain amount, or we do, of technological and just the capacity to read or information at hand. So in some ways, the spiritual technology and also meditations, and of course, it comes with a price with that in modern life. That may not have, had to be endured 500 years ago. But that being said, I think we are much more sophisticated, at least intellectually, mentally. It doesn't mean spiritually, but I think the techniques and technology now may need to be slightly adapted than it was. Even the core essence might be the same as before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. Okay. So, well, before we go into these different practices and the sound, the light, the mind, the visualization, you mentioned the guardians, and yes, and you said you could elaborate about that. I'm definitely curious about that, and I'm sure many in the audience are as well. So if there's anything you feel like sharing about these guardians and their role and what is their purpose of being there.
Yeah. My experience with that, which seems to just fit with what I've experienced, is it's a bit like people probably maybe be well read in terms of different esoteric knowledge, or if you come across some techniques in certain books and written in your language, and you hear a teacher teach about certain techniques. And you may be interested in them, but for some reason, like you fall asleep, like when that particular portion shows up, or you may read that particular technique or idea. It doesn't really stick with you, or for some reason it doesn't make sense. Again, it's in your language. And then in contrast, at another point in time, for whatever reason, some technique is being shown, or you find a book that is talking about a higher level teaching or technique, and it seems to just make sense to you at the time. So that's the external manifestation of the phenomena I'm talking about in terms of the guardians. Mm-hmm. So in the first case, you might call it, maybe you're getting to the point where you're, I guess you call it karmically ripe for that teaching or that technique to land. A lot of it has to do with kind of the level of service that we've gotten to, and maybe, just for lack of a better term, purification of subtle bodies, including the karmic body, but the other bodies which we can talk about. And, maybe you're just on the verge, but not quite there. So a lot of those teachings or techniques, the guardians now in the inner world, which may or may not be so apparent, but they to a person, but they are protecting us perhaps from receiving that particular technique or teaching because it's just not quite right. A lot of times those techniques or teachings will bring down a certain amount of spiritual capacities, and although it seems something we desire, maybe even sexy, like, being able to increase your clairvoyance so you can see or read people more accurately. All of those in the long term actually are greater responsibilities because they can lead you actually, like let's say you could become more clairvoyant. Then you start to kind of what I might call abuse the power, emotionally you might be in the wrong place at the time. And then you actually start creating some actually devastating karma for yourself that if you didn't have that power, you'd be actually safer. So we don't really think about that until it comes along or until you have that ability for, beyond the honeymoon period of, having kind of almost like a new toy or a new gadget, sort of like if you get a new car that's the latest with a new iPhone, after 6 months, then, it's kind of a different feeling. And that's the same thing with these sort of spiritual abilities. We may not be considering the long-term empowerment or having those. It actually comes with a lot more responsibility. So back to our story, and I just kind of conclude here with the Guardians is, so some of these techniques and technologies, the Guardians protect us from receiving until we're sort of, just as an aside, sometimes people right now we feel we're going through very difficult times personally or on the planet, but those are some of the ripening effects that can allow us to, because a lot of times it's through difficulty, maybe even apparent failure, that we allow ourselves to, or maybe enforced to be more compassionate or understanding for people. Back to that example, if you've gone through very difficult times yourself, and then you're given a very strong spiritual ability or power like higher clairvoyance, you'll either think twice or you won't abuse it because you understand other people may be going through something you've experienced in that difficult time. So back kind of here, a lot of times those apparent difficulties on the spiritual path are doing that purification, that ripening, so that when you're given sort of a very strong power, you won't abuse it or will use it properly. And the way that looks is back to the second example, is all of a sudden, what looked like something very abstruse, some technique or technology or spiritual idea, for some reason all of a sudden is very easy for you to understand, very easy for you to practice. So what I perceive in the inner world is the Guardians have allowed that to flow. Again, they're looking out for our best interest, but they're allowing it to flow into our consciousness, and that's why it makes sense in this outer world.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense, and I'm sure. If not everyone, many listening can relate to those moments when this happened, when we couldn't get it, and the moment when we would get it, whether the intellectual understanding or the practice itself was something that we've been attempting to. So it seems that the Guardians have decided for everyone listening, whether we are live on the replay, that we are ready for exploring or deepening our exploration of those practices. So let's start talking about sound. And are there basic universal sounds that you can recommend to use daily, to vibrate daily in our energy field? And is there anything maybe more general about sound and sound vibration that you want to share, Jean, to begin with?
Yeah. Let me give a little background. So most people will be familiar with that, and then leading up to sound, and then to these hand positions, because it's all an integrated practice, and people might have be already practicing these, but just to kind of put it in some framework. So, the way we kind of maybe enter this spiritual, energetic path is prior to that first initiation, where we may have had that first experience of what's called non-physical dimensions, let's say like the energy body, the etheric body. we may have been in a more concrete three-dimensional perspective or reality. And then I would call it maybe one of the first initiations that we took on the spiritual path. Probably everyone here, many people here have taken, and the reason they're interested in the Orb of Grace topics is they realize that there's, non-physical dimensions, not just one aspect to themselves. So we could just start with the etheric or chi or prana body. So once you have that, you realize that, you can develop that pranic body to a higher degree after you've had experiences with it. Until you've had those experiences, then so even just a practice that involves prana on, with your body may or may not have any interest or motivation to you because it's just not real to you yet. But once you do that, then maybe you learn a practice where you realize wherever you put your focus on in the energy body, that tends to accumulate energy and builds the energy. So let's say I talked about clairvoyance. So one of the ways that you can consciously build your clairvoyance is you can build these various energy centers in your body. So how would you do that? So initially, if you're given a good practice, it's fairly straightforward ideas that wherever you put your awareness, the chi flows there more concentrated. Over time, that will build that center. So initial practice that someone might either learn or find in a book or be given by an instructor is, place your awareness in between your eyebrows, for 5 minutes. If they really explain that, even though it seems very simple, back to a person with three-dimensional more consciousness, that seems they may not have any context for why that's important, except that, well, that's an interesting place to put your awareness on, to concentrate on. But in an expanded multidimensional sort of model, that's kind of considered like a third eye chakra. Sometimes they call it the Ajna chakra, which people might know. When that is more developed, it allows you to perceive subtle information or waves consciously, which is like seeing the auras or even just kind of knowing maybe what people are thinking or just getting colors about, around a person, subtle body colors. But that would take some time, and the exercise is if you put your awareness at that area, like say for 5 minutes or so every day, and kind of you're diligent in the practice, that, the idea of having the motivation to do that because you understand the context and have a multidimensional view of what that's doing. Eventually you create something very similar to what in the physical world perceives light. You're basically creating like an etheric eye, EYE, and our physical eye picks up like electromagnetic light, particularly in the visible spectrum. So in the same way, when you build that ajna or third eye chakra to a certain degree by putting your awareness there and accumulating energy there over time, you create like an etheric eye that can pick up, etheric energies. Now, what the sound practices do, that's the basic mechanism, like where you put your awareness on, you'll sort of accumulate the energy there, and it accelerates the development of the subtle body structure. Now, what sound does is if you're given a sound, you can vibrate that sound while you're putting your awareness, at the chakra. And, like, for example, the one that I'll just show here is the mantra or the sound Om, which, is a very universal sound that people might have heard. But the idea is the way you can use it as a technology or tool is when you're putting your awareness at the ajna, and depends on the system, like I'm using a Tibetan system here, and you, chant the mantra Om, either out loud or even semi-audible, or even finally silently, and feel the vibration. It's like a 10x accelerator. I'm just using some metaphoric example, whether it's absolutely 10x, 10 times stronger or not, is definitely stronger than just putting your awareness gently at the ajna. So it's almost like if you have a blender, you go at 1x if you just put your awareness there, and then you kind of hit it to high speed when you add the mantra on top of that. And the thing is, like, probably people are familiar with Om, or I was familiar with Om. But unless someone kind of explains to you how to use it within the context of, like, say, building that energy center, it may or may not be, it's sort of like having a tool without completely knowing how to use all its features.
Right. And I'm sure we all have that experience as well. As I was preparing to meet with you, Jean, I was contemplating that how with mantras, with mudras, well, we can pick up here left and right some ideas or some examples, and I like this. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna use it. But as you say, without the not only the context, but the deeper meaning and purpose and ways of using them, we might do something phenomenal and maybe create our own practice with it, but we might miss a lot of the potential that the technique or the practice offers. So, which is why one of the reasons why I was so happy to welcome you today, because you're going to bring, and you are, and during the program that you're offering, you're going to even more bringing light and awareness to some techniques that and tools and instruments of development, spiritual development, that we may be aware of, but we may not know the depth of them, and not only know, but integrate the depth of them. So, and we know the power of awareness, and once we are aware of something, we expand our experience of this. So I'm really delighted about that. Thank you, Jean.
Oh yeah. So, like, if people were doing, practice with that, and people probably are familiar with the mantra or sound Om, and now whenever you put your awareness, like either at the ajna or in the center of the head, you can chant that, that sound. And, what you're looking for is, you can start with the physical sound, but actually if you tune in each time you say it, and this comes to how even the silent version is actually slightly more powerful than the physical chanted version, is you actually will feel kind of what is called like an etheric vibration from the tone of the Om. And that's actually what you want to capture each time you're, repeating the sound, is actually that inner vibration that it makes. And then you concentrate that, or you focus that, in the center of your head, or, or at your, more at the surface, between the eyebrows. It's actually one energetic structure called the third eye tunnel. If you could imagine like a tube going from in between your eyebrows, kind of straight through the middle of your brain to the back of your head. This is actually one energetic structure called the third eye tunnel. So whether you're in the center of the head or more towards the front of the tunnel, which would be like in between your eyebrows, you just keep your awareness there and continue to chant that mantra Om, but focusing on the vibration it's creating, and you kind of keep that vibration in where you're placing your focus. So that will really open up that center, or it kind of will accelerate your practice.
Excellent. Okay. Just a side note, I love what you shared about the silent toning, because that was going to be my question. Can we tone silently? What I find for myself is that if it's a new sound or a new mantra or something that I'm not already used to, if I practice it a little bit, vocalizing it, it's easier then. It's like adopting it, and I become familiar with it, and then it becomes very easy and much more pleasant actually to use it silently, rather than jumping directly to the silent experience of it when it feels to me it feels kind of unknown and foreign, and I don't quite know how to vibrate it. Whereas when I've uh, vocalized it, if only a few times, then it becomes available as a silent vibration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's actually, you kind of described the proper order. If you can start out by vocalizing the mantric sound, like Om, while you're focusing in a certain location, in this case, let's say the center of the head. Then if you added the visualization, for example, you could imagine like a white sphere there, or a white kind of pearl of light radiating. We're kind of getting ahead of the story a little bit. But yeah, then after, some time, you could stay with the vocalization if a person really finds that to be helpful in their concentration, to actually, hear that sound physically because they're creating it. But like you said, if you were then to move between these three kind of audible, semi-audible, and silent, then you go to sort of a semi-audible Om chanting, where it's much softer. And then you're kind of internalizing, focusing both on the physical sound, but also now a little bit of an emphasis on the inner vibratory sound that the Om creates. And then finally, you can go to the silent chanting, where you kind of are mentally chanting it, but each time you do that, the vibration is now kind of 100% of the focus, and as you focus in the center of the head.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you for that. Okay, so Om with the tunnel, the third eye tunnel. Anything else around Om that you want to share, or? I mean, I'm sure we're just
Mm-hmm.
today we're just scratching the surface, right? We're not taking the deep dive right on today, but at this level, is there anything else about this one sound, Om? Or is there another sound, or are there other sounds that you want to share with us?
Yeah, in kind of this first conception, yes, a little bit like an introduction, but also maybe, just because some people might have already practiced maybe a Hindu version or another lineage's version, are kind of familiar with this. In the Tibetan version of this mantric sound, then the throat center is Ah. So you would chant the mantra Ah as you focus in the throat center. And like I studied in a meditation school, I think I've mentioned in other interviews, called Clair Vision, which is not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily Tibetan. It's more like a modern mystery school with its roots probably all the way back to Atlantis. They called it like it was started by Samuel Sagan, but he called these sounds like etheric can openers. So it really opens up our etheric, particularly when you focus on the silent version, the vibratory version. It can really, you think of it as like, really vibrating your etheric body open. But that was just an aside as we're kind of moving through these sounds. So we'll go through 5 of them. We can kind of backtrack to one, if there was one in particular. But we have Om at the head, Ah at the throat, and then Hum at the heart. And then those are somewhat well known, even if you're not really studying Tibetan Buddhism, Om, Ah, Hum, or have heard some initial thoughts about, this Tibetan Buddhist framework, because that's body, speech, and mind. So body at the head, speech at the throat, and then mind at the heart. And then maybe less well known is the navel is so, S-O. And then you could say the sex chakra, or you could put it at the root chakra, at the perineum, is Ha, Soha, or Soham. So H-A-M, Soham, or Soha. So it's Om at the head, Ah at the throat, Hum at the heart, then So at the navel, and then Ha at the sacral center.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Do you recommend to use them as a sequence, like all of them, or to spend some time on each, like to dedicate, I don't know, every day? How do you actually, let me formulate it differently. How do you recommend to work with these
Practicing with
different
it.
sounds? Yeah.
Yeah, you could dissect it, meaning let's say you were just focusing on the center of the head, like I gave that short protocol or suggestion, like and that I've done in the past, where you just focus in the let's say you're just completely new now to somebody, so the initial practice, maybe without the sound, if this was completely new to you, would be just focus in between your eyebrows for 5 minutes. That means, you gently keep your awareness in between your eyebrows, maybe even touch it initially so you can kind of feel where it is. And then your mind wanders, and then the whole meditation practice is you catch yourself from wandering, you bring your awareness back to the, center of the head. You do that for 5 minutes. And you shouldn't feel bad if your mind wanders. That's kind of the meditation process. At least one meditation teacher mentioned that, it's actually just catching yourself thinking about something else and bring your awareness back to the concentration device, which in this case would be the in between the eyebrows. Now, just to put that back into context, a little reiteration. If you do that over time, so let's say you're dedicated to doing that 5 minutes, let's say after 30 days, and definitely if you continue that for like half a year, just even those 5 minutes, no sound yet, just focus, you'll start to actually probably see auras, around plants or people, meaning like this shine or kind of like this gold outline. And, it might deepen depending on how much work you may have done in the past or even in past lives, because it could reactivate your subtle body system. Now, coming back now to, the topic at hand. So let's say people have done that before, or after, a couple of weeks, you feel comfortable doing that. Then you can add the Om. So you would chant Om and keep your awareness in the center of your head. And you're really not just chanting that sound. You're trying to capture that vibration and then put it, where in between your eyebrows. So it's sort of like almost you're like vibrating that area. And so that kind of, 10x's the intensity or the power of your focus at that center, which kind of is equivalent to accelerating the development of the chakra. And so that's why it's probably less taught, not that it's not less known, but it's less taught to add the sound because it makes it much more powerful, the meditation. And so that would be how you would start it. And so you could just focus on the head. I kind of gave 5 of the chakras. Or if you had a little longer time just to kind of integrate, multiple centers, you could do 2 or 3 centers. You could do the throat then with Ah, and then the heart center with Hum. So you could do 1, 2, or 3. Or if you're, if you wanted to, you could do all 5, and then you just kind of break it down, maybe 3 minutes per center, for example.
Okay. Is there any risk we overdo it? Can we kind of fry ourselves, our system, if we overdo it, or is it totally safe?
Yeah, it's a great question. A couple things on that. I'll just mention why you knowing the entire sequence is helpful, because eventually you want to build your entire energy body, and in the Tibetan system, that 5 chakra front chakra system is fairly complete, meaning you can see how it goes basically from the top of your head down to your bottom of your spine. So you kind of want to develop all 5 equally. Whether you do 1 or 2 in a session, then you probably want to do eventually, the lower 2 or 3 equally in another session. So they don't all have to be done in one session. But if you kind of want to make one meditation complete, then you would spend a little time, kind of whatever time you have, you break it up into all 5 so that you're fully complete and you're not like either top heavy or bottom heavy energetically, which can lead to sort of, different imbalances within one's psychological or energetic makeup over time. I just give one example. So if you do a lot of meditations, maybe you're given one meditation where you're focusing a lot on the upper chakras, then you tend, and you did that for, like I said, on a long-term basis, not just once or twice, but 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, let's say the 6-month version. It's very blissful, a lot of high-frequency energies come into your field, and you basically look like energetically like an upside-down triangle. So your crown chakra, your head chakras are very big, so it looks the base of the triangle. But then if you haven't done any specific exercises like on those lower, like navel, sex chakra, kind of like they aren't as developed, so that kind of looks like almost like a point, like they kind of narrow down in terms of their energetic intensity. And so the way that might look in one's personal life is it's harder to maybe do very practical things, maybe even hold a job, maybe follow a schedule, maybe earn, be lucrative, earn, money, because those are all lower chakra capacities and abilities. So you're very spiritual and can enter very spiritual states, maybe understand very high spiritual concepts, but then it's hard to integrate that into a grounded physical life. So that's kind of, how that might manifest if you overemphasize the upper chakras versus the lower. And I won't go over the other version. Maybe if there was a question or you wanted to unpack the reverse version, where like the lower where you look like a right side triangle energetically, where your lower chakras are more developed than your upper chakras. Either way, the point is that you want them balanced. So in the practice, eventually, or if you wanted to make it simple, just do all 5 in one practice, then you cover your bases. Yeah, but then now I kind of lost your original question.
Can we overdo it? I guess. I guess it comes to balance. I guess it comes to balance, right? From what I'm hearing from you is to have a well balanced practice.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, that's a very good question, like I said, because you can energize your chakras. Actually, I was going to say that when I was mentioning adding the sound, is that more is not always better, because it has to be integrated. So, so the way you want to do is that maybe look out for certain signs that your chakras are getting overactivated, and you're not able to kind of absorb. It's like overeating a bit. Like, you can tell when you've eaten too much, like you feel full, and your physiology has a way of letting you know when you kind of are approaching that or when you've overdone that. And also your stomach, basically, also you feel uncomfortable because your stomach is expanded too much. It's sort of similar because we're maybe not as energy savvy in the beginning because we've kind of lost touch with the energy body, but maybe the audience here has worked with their energy field so they know what the term would be either congested or over-energized. So usually you feel, the signs that your chakra or area in your energy body has been over-energized is sort of like you feel kind of discomfort there, kind of as if it's, congested or has too much pressure in that area. So I would say these would be considered powerful medicines, the sound, even though we might be familiar with them. But when you coordinate that with the focus and then, the concentration on a particular chakra, then it becomes a little bit more, more powerful. So I would say in the beginning, maybe keep, just as a very easy guideline, keep the meditations at each of those centers to around 1 to 2 minutes if you've added the sound. and then increase it from there so you can kind of see how it feels. But maybe 1 or 2 minutes with the sound, and then if you feel comfortable, you could always raise that amount of time. But you don't ever want to get to the congested phase. You just sort of want to always feel like, oh, I can really, almost like I can digest this. This feels comfortable.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. And I guess it's more a matter of just like we eat every day, right? We don't eat once in the week for the whole week to come. It's more a matter of having a regularity and a consistency in our practice. And as you said, it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but a few minutes on each, or even a minute on each center every day to be regular and consistent in our practice really helps to build our sensitivity and our ability to recognize the signs of balance or disbalance and all of this kind of piloting and navigating the system, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like 10 minutes a day, 2 minutes at each of those front chakras and doing that daily is better
Hmm.
than maybe like once a week for 60 minutes.
Right,
So it's
right.
and that's more digestible.
And it is feasible in the daily life as well. We don't always have 1 hour to dedicate, even once a week, but 10 minutes a day is much more feasible. So it's becomes possible and easy to integrate, to make it an integral part of our daily life. So, okay, 10 minutes a day, 2 minutes per center. Great. Thank you, Jean. Shall we talk about mudras? I was wondering, as you were talking about really grounding the energy, I was wondering if mudras are they meant to support us in anchoring and embodying the energy, or does it have nothing to do with this?
Yeah, it depends on kind of how you use. So mudras, kind of make it. There's a lot of. Well, we'll go a little bit bird's eye view. So mudra translates into seal, seal, similar to the animal, but not the animal, not that number definition, but same spelling. It's more
Mhm.
like in ancient China or in different ancient cultures. If they wrote something on a parchment, they rolled it up, and then, or at the very end, if it was a official document, they would have a like an official seal
Mhm.
for like the emperor. So they would burn some wax and they like stamp it down, and then it's like maybe some Chinese character or some character that's the signature of the emperor or something of that nature. Or you seal like you roll up a parchment, you burn the wax, on the where the paper sort of to kind of seal the paper, and you may like press it with some kind of marker, which is the seal. So mudras translates into that definition, like a seal that kind of like seals things in. But depending on the position, and a lot of those can be done with any portions of your physical body to seal in like a state of consciousness or an energetic state or activate an energetic state, depending on how you use the body part. A lot of people have come to know, or it can be focused on just in the hands, because the hands are almost
Mhm.
like a complex, and the fingers and digits and so forth are like a complex computer, although it could be in any part of your body, for example, these different mudras. But we'll focus the ones on the hands. So depending on if the hand is facing, like the palms are facing towards you, that tends to be affecting your system more. If they're kind of facing each other, maybe it's like a balance, like this namaste, where you put your hands together like you're in a prayer position, and you put on your heart chakra. It's almost like everyone knows that one universally.
Mhm.
But that's actually a mudra, a very important mudra. But here the palms are facing inward, so it's sort of like it's kind of a a combination of external and internal. And then if you have any hand positions, this is just a way to dissect maybe some hand positions that people already know, where, one of them is the palm's facing out. So people might have seen these tankas, like in the medicine Buddha, it almost looks like they're saying hello to you.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Mm-hmm.
hand is up, and that's a mudra. And then usually the other hand is like at their navel or something. So,
Right.
people might have learned energy healing, and they might have used that as an example. So that upward hand facing outward is radiating, energy out, and we might call that like a blessing. But if, this might be very familiar to people, so that might be a good place to start. But if you know energy healing, it might look, oh yeah, they're saying hello to me, or, just the 3D version. But if you know energy healing, then, you can be radiating all sorts of things out of that hand that's facing outwards. It could be white energy, it could be gold energy, it could be all, 7 or 12 colors coming out of your hand, which of course is, how we do energy healing. But, these are all, a lot of the tankas from the Himalayas, you now can kind of see like what exactly are they doing with their hands, because it's an embedded secret, they call it like public secret. They're putting the hand mudras on those deities. They're holding their hands in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand some of the deeper meaning, it's basically like understanding like a little bit like a passcode to your energy body, like the simple one of like the blessing hand position, like the medicine Buddha is in, of like what to do with your subtle body. So just as a really quick review, if your hands, the palm is facing inwards in the mudra, it's more affecting you internally, your own system personally. If they're kind of facing each other, that's a little bit like a half-half. It's affecting you, it's affecting the outer world. And then if the palm is facing outward, it's trying to influence the outer world, whether that be people, environment, or animals, or something outside your system.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. Yeah, and that makes sense. Okay. So,
Mm.
how, as you said earlier, that these, like the all the practice that you're sharing about today are meant to be combined. So how do you bring the mudras? Do you bring them at the end of your meditation and using the sounds like to seal the energy? Is it like kind of a lock that you use at the end, or do you also use hand positions while you do the other practices with at placing your attention and bringing the sound?
Yeah. In the practice that I'm showing with the, we'll integrate that some here, but like, we mentioned the deeper dive maybe is in the package, but I'll try to share it here, just because people might, be partaking of it here or go deeper later. But they're usually done within a coordinated sequence within the whole meditation. They can be done on their own. They can be done like as a, that blessing position is actually, that's how you do energy healing. So it could be, a complete focus on your own. But in the system, or in the, what I'm sharing here would be integrated with the, the sound at the chakras while you're holding a mudra at the same time, so simultaneously. But I'll just share one. I was trying to think of this. I forgot we were more verbal on the call than like in Zoom. But you mentioned about grounding, so this could be helpful or practical. Just get a feel for these mudras that people could just use at any time, or even during their own meditation now, whatever they may be doing, including the one I just showed. But there's one more specific. It's a little bit more involved to coordinate it with Om Ahum Soha. But the idea here is your hands, like I said, is this small. Think of it as almost like you have a subtle body cell phone, in each of your hands. But to make it a little more energetically straightforward, like people either might have studied Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, where they have channels in your hands, specifically ones in your fingers. So that's why when you manipulate the fingers, it's almost like you're turning on and off, certain channels directly in your hands that then affect the rest of your energy field. So that's kind of the principle. That's why if you were to dissect certain mudras, I'm sort of trying to giving general principles, always look at like what fingers are involved. Are you pressing certain fingers? Are you bending certain fingers? Because energetically, if you learn some of those systems, which we won't make them that complex, but if you wanted to take the deep dive and you like looked at a Chinese medicine kind of acupuncture anatomy, or you yourself have studied that, or like Jinshin Jitsu, or you realize like, oh, okay, the middle finger has a certain energy channel to it. Like, I'm not sure this is the exact one, but like the liver or gallbladder channel is ending on, or the heart channel. So if you are touching or bending that, then it's going to affect that overall channel in your body. So that's kind of the overall principle of why these hand mudras are effective. So the one I wanted to show is actually for grounding, like you said. It actually activates, this belly region, and we call it the lower dantian, this kind of fire in the belly, forefinger width below your navel. So if you take your palm, in the center of your palm, there's actually a chakra. They call it like I think they call it the dragon gate. That's in the center of your palm. And so like when you're sending energy out of your hands, it actually, the majority of it's coming out of that, they call it minor palm chakra. So what you want to do is you want to take your thumb and just put it in the center of your palm on both hands. So then you have the four fingers that kind of open, and then close it around the thumb, if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone's ever learned boxing or martial arts. This is exactly the hand position you don't want to do when you're doing the because if you punch someone like this, I'm just trying to give the visual verbally. You'll crush your thumb.
You break your thumb, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in that position, you're in the right position for this mudra. Okay. And then you put your so now you have like a closed fist over your thumb, and you're basically energetically, the way to think of it is you're super activating that palm minor chakra, and then you put your palms, in the fist, face down on your knees. Does that make sense? If you can get that visual. Okay, so what this does is it activates your lower, chakras, basically your belly region, your lower dantian, very strongly. So if you want a very grounded meditation, you want to really feel like I'm connected to the earth. And you don't have to be in a meditation posture. You could just, immediately put your hand in this position. But for example, I learned this in a Taoist tradition. So sometimes now it's kind of popular, but maybe, it's a different tradition. I was going to say they have a training where you meditate like in a cold spring, and you put half of your body in the cold water, like a mountain spring. Then you try to stay there for 15 or 30 minutes or I don't know how many, 5 minutes. But this is a position you would put in so that you kind of get that fire in your lower belly activated. So people do, I know Wim Hof, I've mentioned him, and kind of these cold showers or cold baths or cold plunges. This might be a good hand mudra in that specific situation. So you're kind of like, you can keep your body warmer because you're activating that fire in the belly or the lower dantian. But let's say you're not doing that kind of extreme. I don't know if most of us are going to do that extreme version. But if you just wanted to meditate and like really feel grounded, centered, in your body, maybe while or even if you're focusing on the lower dantian, then you could add this mudra, this, closed fist, activating the center of your palm, sort of, a hand position, putting it on your knees, and see how that feels compared to, just focusing in the center or focusing on that kind of forefinger width below, but your hands are open. So that's how it accelerates or can enhance your practice.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
that. Yes. Okay. So we have mudra. Let's talk about the visualization, form and
Mm-hmm.
color. You've briefly mentioned earlier the white pearl. So that could be one of
Mm-hmm.
the forms and colors. Can you share a little bit about this practice of visualization and how it's powerful to accelerate our consciousness?
Yeah, so we kind of going along this integrated path of what was shown before. So first, you just kind of as a quick review. First, I could activate a center, like the center of my head or in between the eyebrows, just by putting my awareness there. That's kind of maybe people have heard that as a part of a mechanism of a practice. Put your awareness on your ajna or in the center of your head. Then we added the sound, depending on the system. This was a Tibetan system, so you add Om, chanting Om, so you're adding a vibration, frequency through vibration of sound. And then now you add a frequency more subtle, which would be color. So I mentioned, just as a prelude to this, that you could imagine like a pearl of light in the center of your head that's radiating a white light. So for this system, since we gave the 5 chakras, the center of the head was Om, it would be a white light. Then the throat is a red, you could imagine a red ruby sort of pearl irradiating there when you're focused there. Kind of these colors should be very clear and bright is the tone or hue, clear and bright, clarity and brightness. And then Hum, which would be like a lapis lazuli blue, so kind of a darker version. Could even border on black, but again, sort of clear and bright, so kind of a dark blue at the heart. And then the So with the sound for the navel, so that's sort of a yellow or a gold color in this system. And then finally the Ha, which is at your perineum, or you could put at the pubic bone, the sacral center. That would be an emerald green. So now you're sort of, if you do, you can kind of build it, but if you were to do, if it's easy enough, people probably have had practice in different visualizations, then you kind of, color is like, in visualization, color would be a little bit of a different type of frequency. They're all frequency vibrational based. So you're kind of adding a more subtle frequency to the visualization, which again enhances the opening and also the quality of the chakra, kind of what's radiating out of it.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot to combine, but I guess it's a matter of
Mm-hmm.
practice and habit, right? Once it's become familiar and habitual, then we just click it on, and having the attention, the sound. At some point we'll add the mudras, but also for now the colors. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just kind of double click on the point you mentioned there. Yeah, like, let's if this is new, or you can kind of dissect it and do only one valence or one aspect. So, first you just, if this is completely new, maybe you just focus, do the attention at the chakra. You don't do sound, you don't do color. You just get used to putting your awareness, at your throat center for 5 minutes, or then your heart center for, or let's say 2 minutes, heart center 2 minutes. Then you could choose one. You don't necessarily have to go in any particular order, but you can just stay focused on that for a couple of sessions. Let's say you wanted to do the color. So I've done this, and maybe some people who've done some programs with me previously, that would be familiar. Like when you're at the center of the head, then I might say, like, imagine a white pearl radiating there, or a white sphere. And so maybe, and that might be a strong suit of people, not the sound so much. That might be new. So you just focus on the color of each chakra as you're meditating there. And then, other practice sessions, you could focus. It will always be the attention because you're always going to the center. So inherently, it has the attention aspect. But then you could do the sound, at each of those, and then forget about the color so it doesn't confuse you or overburden things, and get really good at that. And then you can start to do all three, putting your attention, let's say, at your throat, chanting the mantra, ah, and, as you're chanting the mantra, ah, you see that red, ruby red radiation, going out in all directions. And so you kind of can build it stepwise. The way I think about it is a little bit like playing a complex piece on an instrument. Like maybe you start with a certain portion of it, or focus and get really good at that, and then you add the other portion, and then after a while you can everything with practice gets easy. It's the same.
Right, and I'm sensing how the integration comes as well, that after, with the practice, just bringing our attention to one specific center will kind of invoke the sound and the color to just pop up by themselves, right? Without for us to have to kind of search for them or to bring them. They will just show up.
Yeah, exactly. And just because I had that, a little bit of that brain neuroscience background, after a while you do these integrated type practices, you're using more parts of your brain, with the color, the sound, then you're thinking somatically with the hand mudra and so forth. And so, and as well as developing your concentration. So, these integrated practices, just from even a brain perspective, let alone a multidimensional subtle body perspective, but it's integrating more parts of your brain, because you're calling on more parts of your brain in any one practice when you're doing all of it together.
Excellent. So good for brain health as well. Health and expansion. Yeah. Great. Okay. So is there a short practice that you would be able to share with us to integrate the sound, the form, the mudra, the visualization? Is there something you would like to lead us through? If so, share with us what's the purpose of this practice and anything you want to share about it, and we'll be delighted to receive it and certainly to adopt it as well. So thank you, Jean.
Yeah. Let me show a different mudra right now. Maybe we'll just do that as this initial practice, because it's a little bit more involved, but could be helpful. Definitely for healers. So I'm just going to show a mudra practice here, and then if we have extra time, or we can kind of break this down, we could always add, the chakras. But in this case, most people know this namaste hand position. I mentioned very universal. You basically have your palms facing each other, fingers straight up, and it's like a prayer position. Your hands are at your heart chakra. But this is actually a very powerful activation of your hands. And I know many people here maybe do energy healing, through their hands, or some work with their hands. The way you can do that, I'll just kind of describe the practice, and then we'll go through the practice, is, you have so you put your hands in that position. So, the thumbs are touching your heart chakra. You're in that kind of prayer position, and sort of fingers pointing upwards or slightly at an angle. And then you want to imagine like you're bringing in the divine energy down your pillar, like a pillar of white light, comes down all the way through your kind of central channel or pillar to your navel center, to that lower dantian. I'm just describing it now, but you can go ahead and practice it if it feels comfortable. And then simultaneously, so that's white light coming into your belly region or lower dantian region. Then a red light or a red gold light emerges, from the earth, maybe the center of the earth, coming up through sort of the central channel or central pillar from below, through your perineum and then up into your navel. So then these two energies combine almost like a yin-yang, mixture of divine energy with the earth energy. And then you're going to take that energy and bring it up to your heart so it mixes with your heart. And then you bring that energy down your arms, it kind of splits from your heart down your arms, so then and to your palms, which are now facing each other. So maybe your palms might start feeling hot now. And so you kind of build almost like an energy ball in between your palms. So that in itself is a big activation of your hands. So, a lot of times we just do the mudra, and kind of bow to someone. We say, like namaste. Mm-hmm. But actually, if you kind of, this actually is a building of your energies if you kind of use it as a meditation, and so now just back to the meditation. So you kind of can just focus there and back to the center of your palms, which we did earlier to activate, in the fist. Now we're not doing the fist, but we're just focusing on the center of your palms, building up that energy that came from your navel to your heart. And then if you want, you can add a rotation. So just imagine like there's that energy ball that's kind of in between your palms. You rotate it, and it's like a sphere. You just rotate it forward, like it's going down the front of your palms, and then to the back of your palms to your thumb, and then back forward. So you're kind of doing a rotation, almost like as if you're rotating. You can even make the ball as big as your fingers, where your fingertips are. So you're kind of rotating forward through the fingertips as if there was someone in front of you. You would rotate the energy forward, staying inside your hands. And then when you get to the base of your hands, you move it backwards, to your thumbs, and then forward. So there's as if you're holding a circle in between your palms, and you're rotating the energy that's built there forward and back, and then back up. It seems like people might be doing this, so maybe let's just stay there. So you're in this kind of namaste, but you've brought in the energy from your navel, which is a combination of the divine energy from above and the earth energy from below. You bring that up to your heart center, so that's mixing now with your heart energy, that unconditional love. So that from the heart it splits down, your hands, your arms, goes to your palm, and then you build it up as if you have an energy sphere in your palms. You could just stay there if that feels good. You're almost like now you have a radiating sun that's kind of in your palms or in the middle of that kind of golden red sphere. Your hands might be getting quite activated or hot. This is activates your hands for such things as healing, or if you chant mudras, or your hands are activated, or use mudras, or even when you hold a mala. We didn't really talk about that, but because this comes from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, when you are holding the beads of your mala, chanting, let's say a mantra, your hands are sending energy into the mala. But anyways, now we add the rotation. So as if your hands are holding a circle or the sphere, or let's say it's a circle aspect, and you're rotating towards the front and down towards the base of your hands, then up the back, which would be like your thumbs, and then back towards the fingers. You can do a slow rotation like that. Whenever you rotate the energy, it tends to make it multidimensional or activates it further. If you like, you put the tongue on the roof of your mouth, and you can do that at the beginning of the practice. That will make it more energized. And if you like, you can slightly contract your anus, which also will energize your body. So those are 2 points, and I'll explain later, in your energy circuit that tend to have a break physically. So you're kind of turning on the light switch in that circuit. Just spend like maybe 30 seconds more just rotating the energy in your palms. Okay. When you're done, you can just put your hands in your lap, maybe shake them out, and when you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
Wow. Whew. Talk about energizing. Wow. Yeah. It energizes the hands, but the whole body, the whole system. It feels so vibrant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like tools. I call it tools of ascension, because you're sort of more. These tools are a little more is manually. You're kind of developing a skill. A lot of the transmissions, activations were a little bit more in the receptive mode. Receiving energies. Here, we're actually developing our capacities to make our subtle bodies, able to conduct energy based on our will or intention.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Phew. Thank you. What a gift. This is such a gift. I think, well, if we were to bring this to our namaste, we're never gonna do namaste in the same way ever again if we bring that energy. Imagine, because with this buildup of energy, you can then choose to, well, keep it to yourself. I feel like when you finish the practice, I felt like putting my hands over my chest and to bring this energy to my heart. But it can also be gifted, right? It can be gifted to others or to the world. And so if we use the namaste position and this build-up of energy, then we can give this energy to the person we meet with the namaste. How would that be?
Yeah, exactly. The energy can be, if you, like you said, if you put it, your palms at the end towards yourself, again, that would be actually a type of mudra. In a sense, you're sending the energy from your hands that you built up into your heart center, which, of course, would then distribute through your own field. If you either use both or one hand and then faced outwards, you could send that energy out, to another person. Place, could radiate into a space also. Then that's when I was kind of describing how to look at certain mudras and what they're doing, then that would kind of be an additional mudra with palm facing outward, almost like in the blessing position of the Buddha, or like the Christ. Yeah, a blessing that energy outward.
Wonderful. We're all going to go around like blessing Buddhas. Thank you, Jean. Well, wow, you're such a gold mine of knowledge and wisdom and practices. I love the practices that you gift us with. And today there's only so much. As I said, we're only scratching the surface, but you're inviting us to a 3-day very immersive and intensive program. Let's talk about this before we go to experience receiving, going to on the side of the receiving, right? Receiving actually and frequency transmissions. But for now, I'd love for you to talk about the wonderful offering that you've created, mantra, mudra, and mind training. Ascension, you call them Ascension tools. To me, they are so much more than tools. They're whole technologies. So I've marked it as Ascension technologies for the modern age, especially when you integrate the different approaches together. I feel that it creates a whole technology. So we'd love to hear all about your program, Jean. For everyone to follow, you can go to gracefulconnections.com. That's graceful with two L's, as in full of grace, gracefulconnections.com/Festival Gene, all in one word, Festival Gene. If you're on the webcast, you have a button and a link. If you're on the replay, just scroll down the page and discover Gene's special offer. Gene, reveal what you've created with this program, Mantra, Mudra, and Mind Training. Well, it's close to what we've been talking about and experiencing today, obviously, but what is going to happen during these 3 live group events of 2 hours each?
Yeah, and just that practice we just did, kind of you could call it the palm energizing mudra, the Namaste, which we kind of universally know, but now can you add the inner energy aspect? You could do that if you want to develop your, let's say your palm energies in your palm for healing. You do that about 5 minutes, 5 minutes a day. And over time, you'll be your both your palms and the ability to send energy, from your field will also improve and strengthen, and get much stronger. Sort of similar to doing 20 push-ups every day or something. Your biceps will get bigger. Yeah, but energetically.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, but the program here, I think you really did a great job in asking, these questions throughout the interview to unpack these concepts. So I think people will have a pretty good idea of what the program is. We go kind of deeper, with the mantra. For example, there's 5 back chakras that I didn't mention. I guess we didn't have time. But, we did the 5 front, which had sounds associated with them. So then there's also 5 corresponding back chakras along the spine that have also sounds or mantric sounds associated with them. So then it's like a loop. So we kind of were able to cover half of it, which is great. That could be a meditation itself. But like in the program, we'll kind of do that as another example or a further deepening. Going over the sounds in the back sounds for the back chakras, and then it's sort of an integrated practice. We did half of it, but it's almost like a loop, and so that will be like a core practice we'll go over, and then that's also integrated with also a certain mudra, one that we weren't able to completely cover here. And so like you'd be doing that sound, that energy focus along the front, and then along the back chakras, and then integrating that with a mudra. So in general, the day 1 is associated with mantra, and then besides that kind of main meditation, which you sort of started here, maybe we didn't complete it, because it would probably take a little more time and some practice. We would add some other mantric sounds. It kind of depends on maybe who shows up and how much time we have, because you don't want to kind of rush the entire thing, because it's almost like learning a song, a new song on an instrument. Yeah. So there'd be that, and then in the mudra, we'll go over the integrated mudra with that.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's going to be on video. So as opposed to today, which you have to juggle with just explaining, but as it's going to be on video, especially for the mudra part, it's going to be much more practical and easier for you to explain and for everyone to follow. So yes, sorry to interrupt about that, but that's an important point.
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit easier to facilitate, showing people that on the video. And then, of course, people will get I might have put here MP3, but you'll get the MP4, the video recordings. So you can, because a lot of it is visual. Besides the integrated, this kind of bigger practice with the mudra there, then it's like these one-off mudras, like the one that I mentioned for the closed fist one to help activate your, we'll learn a couple of those also depending on the time and maybe who shows up and their interests, because there's other mudras, like I was mentioning, this medicine Buddha, blessing, which people kind of maybe already naturally do if they do energy healing. But there's sort of some other ones that aren't necessarily integrated in a meditation. Just to kind of what really the overall focus, or what I tend to like to focus on in facilitating these, is that people get the general principle of mantra, mudra, and visualization, and then maybe you like the practices presented here because they are powerful, but maybe you're already doing something, or maybe in the future you learn one of these three of these categories, and you kind of have the deeper principle to understand, or like what you mentioned you did, like putting your hands on your heart at the end. Then if something intuitively comes to you, or you get downloaded from one of the inner world teachers that people work with, you kind of understand the principle behind maybe what they're suggesting to do. So that's a big emphasis on this training, is the kind of the universal principles of these three kind of tools, power tools. So that's the mudras, day 2. A lot of this will be combined, over the 3 days, because we'll just kind of learn them in an integrated fashion. But then day 3 is like where I mentioned you can add color. You can also add visualization. For example, like there's certain visualizations, like at the head center, where you're not just focused in the center of the head, but maybe you imagine like moving the energy 3 feet, like in front of you, back and forth. So you're kind of moving the energy. Hold on 1 second here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my headphones, the battery. Okay. They ran out, but that's okay. I just do this a little manually, like old style, where we held our phone up to our ears. Yeah. So the final one, like I was mentioning, you can move the energy, for example, back and forth in front of you at the head center, like 3 feet in front, and then you learn to move it like in the back, like as if you have a tube of light 3 feet extended, from the back of your head, as you're sounding the mantra. So you're moving the energy back, and this allows you to kind of build your energy field, beyond just like the central column in the middle, but also practice how to move energies with sound and light. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So there may be like a 20-minute transmission in the beginning that's sort of held more by the, these guardians and spiritual teachers of the tradition, also your particular teachers, that kind of would help to accelerate the practice. But I think, as most people maybe get a sense, this is a much more learning a skill. So there's, so a lot of the time is not just maybe passively receiving an energy, but actually like kind of learning a practice and having some time to practice it. Although a lot of it, once you learn it, you'll go over how to actually integrate it as a practice. And, if it seems a little overwhelming now to some people, just realize you could learn portions of it or do practice like portions of it. So we'll go over that so it makes sense for people and practically, so they can, build up this ability. And, they kind of have this Chinese saying, like, once you've spent the effort in acquiring a skill, like no one can ever take that skill away from you, that you own the skill. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet, I'm sure in the way that you do, always, Jean, the 3 sessions are gonna be, everybody's gonna be able to meet you wherever they are. So from beginners to more advanced practitioners who are already using mantras or mudras, everybody's gonna be served, and it's gonna be able to be nourished during the time together and to receive the practice that they need as their next step in their journey and evolution. So that's really wonderful. It is very generously priced, and there's a PayPal for payment option available in many countries. So I really recommend to take this opportunity to join Jean on this immersive intensive series, mantra mudra and mind training. And stay with us until the end of our time together today, because Jean will share a special announcement at the end that you will not want to miss. So thank you, Jean, for creating this program. I'm really looking forward to it. The practices that you bring, I find that the way you present them makes them so accessible that it is real, and we can actually use them and start using them and incorporating them in our daily practices. So looking forward to this. Thank you, Jean. So are you ready to offer some Arcturian frequency transmissions?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we do have, thank you, some requests. I'd like to begin with kind of wrapping up many requests into one transmission. We have a good number of requests for health. So we have requests from, let me read a few of them, from Kevin, pain in the liver, gut, and boosting his energy levels. We have request from Jane in San Diego for her son Ryan, suffering from Crohn's disease. We have requests from MJ in Folsom for arthritis in the hips, from Sarah for physical healing, Karen for health, and forgive me if I missed anyone else who requests for health. But let's begin with this. If you have a transmission for, kind of a general transmission for health. And if you can,
sure.
Sorry, Jean, if you can, before doing the transmission, for if anyone is new to your transmissions, just say a short comment on, is there anything we need to do to receive them, or just allow them to come through? How do we experience this?
Yeah. So if you're new to energy healing, or if you've done energy healing, it'll be like a distance session. You can just simply, sit maybe with your palms up, or if you're driving, it's fine. The energy has its own intelligence, so it will adjust, so it won't overwhelm you or put you into a state that doesn't allow you to, do what you're doing. And just be open and receptive, and notice what you're noticing. Some people feel a lot, some people don't feel anything, anywhere in between, but you're still receiving the healing energies that will unfold over the next day or week or even weeks in terms of its benefit. And you'll hear me, I'll start the healing frequency. Here we're going to be using one particularly strong advanced Arcturian healing method frequency called Arcturian high frequency light. And then usually I'm silent. I may say a couple things just so you know I'm still here, while it's channeling. And then I'll let you know when it ends, kind of bring you back into your body.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. You can just relax, particularly if you need healing at any level, particularly the physical body level. We're starting with the Arcturian high frequency light. We're deepening this use of the Arcturian high frequency light, going more now to the cause, whatever the physical manifestation might be. Now finally deepening it to the karmic conditions that gave rise to the condition you may be experiencing. Again, we're still using the Arcturian high frequency light. And that completes the transmission with the Arcturian high frequency light. You can gently but firmly come back to your physical body now. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I will add, forgot to mention Carla in Brussels. That was also for Carla. And anyone listening who
Right.
who wanted to receive or to focus on health. Okay, thank you, Jean, for this. I like to take the request from Linda in Hobart. That's going to be also possibly a request for many. I love the question. A transmission on deepening and rediscovering the connection to long lost gifts that are within.
Yeah, there's a kind of a triple frequency called Arcturian Metatron Melchizedek Mandala healing frequency. So it works with the Arcturians, with Metatron and Melchizedek, and so kind of these three beings and their healing frequencies can help awaken our, like you mentioned, or the long lost gifts, or sometimes these subtle body structures that we developed that haven't come online yet. Okay, we'll do that now. So we're activating the Metatron, Melchizedek, Arcturian, Mandala healing frequency. Continue to channel the Metatron, Melchizedek, Arcturian, Mandala healing frequency. Now we're going through the last deepening phase of the Metatron, Melchizedek, Arcturian, Mandala healing frequency. And that completes the energy transmission for that portion. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
Beautiful, thank you. Okay, I'd like to take the request from Carla in Minneapolis about letting go of the need for control. Carla feels stuck in the same patterns of trying to control everything, so she feels a sense of safety and control. I know control is, and letting go of control is something that many are battling with. So if you have a transmission for that, Jean, please.
For Carla and others. And also, if these aren't your intentions, you could just add whatever your particular intention is. The frequencies will work with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a powerful frequency called the Arcturian Salcantay healing frequency. Salcantay is a mountain that we trekked in Peru and kind of received a transmission to combine the spirit of the mountains energy, Salcantay, with the Arcturian consciousness. Very good for overcoming obstacles or blockages. Let's start that now. You're channeling the Arcturian Salcantay healing frequency. Continue to deepen the Arcturian Salcantay healing frequency. And finally, we're entering the third phase that deepens this to its greatest extent. And that completes the exposure to the Arcturian Salcantay healing frequency. And you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Can we take one more? I think we have one.
Sure.
I have one request here. That's maybe going to be the the cherry or the icing on the cake of these transmissions.
Mm-hmm.
We have a request from Margaret in Charlottesville, Virginia, about calling in light conscious rays to work with her and with each of us who choose to receive this. Light conscious rays to work better with her, to heal Earth and weave in new structures.
Oh, yeah, sounds like a wonderful intention.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll run another at a sacred site mountain Arcturian frequency. It's called the Arcturian Kailash healing frequency. So last year we went and trekked around Mount Kailash in Tibet, and this is a transmission from there, almost like like a shamanically, like the medicine from the Apu's mountain spirits, combined with the Arcturian consciousness. So it's very good for actually instructing certain programs or codes into our system. So we can do the one that was mentioned. And also, if people are listening either now or through the recording, have their own particular intention, this will help to deepen it into your 7 subtle bodies. Okay. So we're starting with the Arcturian Kailash healing frequency. Continuing to deepen the Arcturian Kailash healing frequency. And that completed there. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes. Snap your fingers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean, for all these transmissions. Thank you, everyone, for your requests and all that came through for everyone to receive. There's a question that we will just briefly answer, but I think the deeper answer could very well be in the 3-day gathering, about the system using 5 chakras instead of 7, 5 energy centers instead of 7, and the choice of colors. Why is it red at the throat chakra instead of the root chakra? This is about you are using a Tibetan system. Is that correct, Jean?
Exactly. Yeah. The different lineages and systems, like what the person asking the question is pointing out, it's a little bit like the best analogy is like software on our hardware. Like our subtle body system is a little bit like the software on the hardware. And so depending on the system, the different colors may change for the chakras. Also, the mantras either may be completely different, or even they could use the same mantra or seed syllable at a different chakra. And as long as you turn on the appropriate app, like if we have, 5 apps and you know that you're using this app, on your phone,
Mhm.
then it will make sense. And then
Yeah.
you can change the app on your, hardware and use a different one. The key point there is, it's a little bit like the practice idea. The more you use a certain app or do a certain practice, it kind of makes it deeper into your subtle body system. So you kind of want to have enough practice sessions using a particular practice the way it was set up so that
Mhm.
it sort of sticks.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for this
Mm-hmm.
clarity. And anything more? I'm sure that, there will be time to ask questions of you during the mantra, mudra, and mind training. 2 hour each day live on the October 13th, 14th, and 15th, plus the replays, which are just as potent. And then you can keep working with them until you've mastered and integrated these practices into your daily life, gaining the benefits of accelerating your spiritual evolution and enhancing your capacity to serve. So I hope everyone is going to join Jean on this immersive, intensive program focused on these 3 practices, but really the synergy of them, and it's going to be very flowing. So one day dedicated to each, but also in a very flowing way. I believe it's going to be more mixed. There's like a main theme for each day, either a mantra or mudra or visualization, but you're going to mix the 3 practices in each day as well. So all the details, again, go to gracefulconnections.com/festivalgene. If you're on the webcast, you have the button or the link to click and get the special offer there. If you're on the replay, just scroll down the page to discover Jean's special offer and all the details about this. For now, let's get to our special announcement. Jean is generously offering a fast action bonus for any purchases of this program by Sunday, October 5th at midnight Pacific. Jean, please tell us about your fast action bonus, the Shasta Vortex Transmission Galactic Operating System Upgrade.
Yeah, this is a great complementary sort of program to this much more focused technique oriented program where you're kind of learning these skills that then kind of last a lifetime. The transmissions do that too. It's a little bit more the yin and the yang, yin aspect of receiving. But this was a transmission that was requested by the galactic beings at Mount Shasta. I usually hold a yearly or annual retreat at Mount Shasta in August. So this past August, we downloaded this transmission to basically upgrade our so-called subtle body's consciousness. You saw that like an operating system on your computer to give you kind of next version, during these accelerative times, like I mentioned. We're sort of really working with a lot of new energies in a very conscious way. So our subtle bodies and consciousness are also asked to be, accelerated too. And different galactic teachers, as well as your inner world teachers and guides and your higher self, can kind of download that next version, when your requests are open-hearted with that. So that's this next transmission that sort of we did and is included in this package.
And it's a 45 minutes, I believe, right? Yes, 45 minutes transmission. So very, very profound. Personally, I'd buy the package just for this transmission. It seems so powerful. And do we need an operating system upgrade at the moment at the galactic level? I say yes. So thank you for adding this, Jean, to your program. The fast action bonus expires on Sunday, October 5th at midnight Pacific. So make the best of this. Jean, are there any closing words you would like to share with us? You've shared so much already, but if there's anything you would like to add to close, now would be a good time.
Yeah, one of the things is that you can directly test some of these effects like if people have learned scanning or some type of sensing of subtle energies, one thing is you first kind of do the throat chakra might be easy. You sort of just maybe ask for how energizes my throat chakra. And I learned scanning and pranic healing. You kind of take your hands and you just sort of see how much energy is radiating from your throat area. And then, what you can do is you chant that mantra, ah. Just chant it 3 times as you focus on your throat chakra. So you just say, ah, as you focus at your throat, ah, and then ah. And then rescan your throat. Just ask for how energized is my throat chakra and see how much more, or it could be less. You can just be open how much energy is now radiating from your throat chakra. That may give you a more direct evidence or sense of how these sounds, and then we didn't really use light in this case, but how they can accelerate, your energy practices.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Great addition to the practice and to how to navigate the practice. So thank you, Jean. Thank you so much you offered. I mean, we could spend the whole day with you, but for now, let's take a moment to return to the awareness of the orb of grace surrounding us, allowing it to remain there, holding us, holding all that we have received, discovered, experienced today. As we are held in the orb of grace for as long as it serves our highest good, our evolution, and the highest good of all. I'm closing now by offering my deepest gratitude to all of you, whether you're here live or on the replay. Thank you for answering yes to the calling of the grace of Ascension, and the calling to elevate your life with light, sound, and vibration. Infinite gratitude to our brilliant channel of grace today, Jean Ang, for all the wisdom, the illumination, the sacred offerings you have gifted us today. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yes, and gratitude to the Orb of Grace for holding us in this safe, sacred sanctuary. And gratitude for all the grace we are blessed with at every moment, offering nourishment, healing, and insights we open our hearts to receive. Gratitude to our higher selves and all the higher beings who guide and protect us, and to the divine presence that flows through all that is. Until we meet again very soon, may graceful blessings shower upon us all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jean, and goodbye for now.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.